Tech giant Google, here's another one, was busted recently for funneling money to climate change deniers, even though the company claims to take the issue of climate change very seriously. This is so important to us. What a bunch of bunk. This isn't important to them. This is all about them trying to protect themselves. They're giving all this money to conservatives because they're trying to say to the conservatives, don't let antitrust interfere with our business. Take it from there.
Right. What Google's doing right now is they're trying to play both sides of the field. On the one side, they're trying to placate people who care about the environment, saying, listen, Google's a good company. We're out here. We want the planet to be greener. We do not want pollution. We want to be the good guys in this fight. Behind the scenes, they're pouring tons of money into groups like the Competitive Enterprise Institute, the Heritage Foundation, Cato Institute, who are pumping out nonstop climate change denial science that's not even really science, because one, as you said, they want no regulations on them. They don't want these antitrust cases that are coming at them pretty quick. And two, because they're not genuine. They put the profits above all else.
Let's not run through this too quickly. Let me, so the listeners can understand. Heritage Foundation, they're actually creating information about the fact that there's no such thing as climate change. Right. The Competition Enterprise doing the same thing. They're hiring bioinstitutes all over the world to say that climate change is nonsense. Google knows this. Google puts it on their site. Google knows exactly who they are. And Google has the audacity to say, oh, no, we're all for climate change. If you look at our operation, we're moving completely towards, towards non-fossil fuel kind of business. But nevertheless, Koch think tank. Who is more rabid in this country than the Koch think tank? So why are they taking their money? They're taking their money because they want access to conservative politicians who are going to stop what should happen, which is to say, you know what? You better be worried about antitrust, Google. Amazon, you better be worried about antitrust. This is the takeaway, isn't it?
It is, and that's how they get away with this. Because, again, on the surface, the story everybody sees is Google wants to make the world a better place.
Yeah, they have ads.
Right, and unfortunately, nobody looks behind the curtain. Nobody follows the money anymore. And that's where you find these real damaging stories about the fact that, yeah, you're giving money so they can promote climate change denial, but you get out of it no regulations, no antitrust laws. You profit off of this.
Let's talk about this. Isn't little money. We're talking about money that gets towards the billions of dollars. Yeah. If you look at all these stories. And so to have them doing ads, to have their CEO showing up on the news and said, oh, we just so much care about climate change, knowing that they're funding this whole process, that they're putting their stories out. Actually, there was even a story not long ago where they had a choice. Do I put the anti-climate change story up there because we're getting money from the Cato Institute, or do we put some entity who is very bothered by climate change and wants to do something about it? Where do you think they go? They go to the Cato Institute and they say, well, they're more credible. Yeah. So this whole story, to me, it just shows you the ugly undercarriage of these tech companies right now. They're no different. They are no different from any corporation that's trying to buy access, like the next story we're going to talk about. It's all about corporate America spreading money around, but they don't look like corporate America. Right. They don't dress up in suits. They have these cool little surroundings where they ride bicycles and blow up balloons in the afternoon. Everybody eats lunch together, and you think, oh, this is a kinder, gentler company. No, they're corporate thugs, just like all the other corporate thugs. That's what upsets me about this whole deal with Amazon and Google. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has historically supported Republican candidates, but they've decided to branch out by holding fundraisers for centrist Democrats. There's a reason behind this move, and I have Farron Cousins from the Trial Lawyer magazine to tell us what's happening. Farron, we've talked about this in the past. The centrist Democrats are almost not, you can't tell the difference between a centrist Democrat and a Republican, even today.
Right.
So now the Chamber of Commerce that used to give 80% of their money to Republicans are now making the shift. They're trying to rebuild the centrist Democrats because they're afraid of the progressive arm. Give me your take.
It's really interesting that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce decided, and this was actually last week, they held this big kind of an awards ceremony, I guess, for their little group, which is actually just an offshoot of No Labels. And they are starting to funnel a little bit more money. We saw it in 2018. We're seeing it now for 2020 to these centrist, or actually a better term would be corporatist Democrats, because they understand that these Democrats, much like a lot of the more moderate Republicans, they don't want anything at all to change. Not change for the better, certainly not change for the worse. Just keep things the way they are. No regulations, low to no taxes, and everybody wins according to the Chamber of Commerce. But really, it's just their members that win on this plan.
Okay, so again, the Democrat, Wall Street Wall Street Democrats, that's what I got different names, but it's all about Wall Street.
Right.
And so now you have them, they've captured this Gertenheimer and several other Democrats as leadership, that the plan for these folks, these centrists, is to take all of the attention away from the progressives, put huge money into the centrist agenda that was initially brought by Bill Clinton. You know, that's when we started the globalist Democrat, the centrist Democrat, the Wall Street Democrat. So those are the days the corporates want, the Chamber of Commerce, Associated Industry, all the corporate types want to move back to. But aren't they getting hustled again? Aren't the centrist Democrats getting hustled again?
They are. That's the thing they're best at, because Evan Bayh, several years ago, after he had left the Senate, wanted to get back into the Senate, hitched his wagon to the Chamber of Commerce, did some fundraisers with him, and then when it came time for his campaign to start back, they abandoned him. They started supporting his opponent, pouring money into his opponent, even though he was very much a corporatist. So they got what they wanted out of him. They got his name. You know, they got him to go out there and headline these events. But then when it came time to, put your money where your mouth is, they absolutely worked him over, and he never saw it coming.
Let me mention something. The Intercept, again, did a great job. What a great source for what's really happening in the world. The Intercept. So now the Intercept says, look, we kind of know who they are. You know, it's Microsoft, it's Conoco, it's Goldman Sachs, it's Coca-Cola. It's all the usual suspects. But what this story didn't go into, and they didn't go enough detail, now the story we did last week, where we're seeing Apple, we're seeing Amazon, we're seeing, all the social media, the Google, the warm and fuzzy corporate types that are now pushing money, not directly, but in special interest, conservative special interest groups. Aren't we seeing that more and more?
We are, and they understand the same thing the chamber sees. Change is on the horizon, and it's not just because we have the progressive candidates. It's because when you look at the polling, you have Republicans, Democrats, and independents who say, listen, we're burning down the planet. There's 100 corporations responsible for 70% of this. They've got to be held accountable. The healthcare industry, Republicans, Democrats, everybody says we're getting worked over by them and this has to stop. They see the writing on the wall. It's not, it is mainly, I guess, because of the progressive candidates out there talking about it, but the public understands it now. They see it in their bills and they want change.
Okay, not only that, aren't we seeing this? The Cory Bookers, the Kamala Harrises, they can't run under disguise anymore.
Right.
I mean, we're seeing that. I mean, Cory Booker, we know the story on him. He sides with the pharmaceutical industry. You know, we wanted to import drugs, cheaper drugs from places like Canada. Cory Booker single-handedly rallies 6 Democrats to stop that. We saw Kamala Harris out in California with the things that she did on behalf of corporate America. So the good news is the American public is waking up, and it's harder for these people to hide. This is an important message for our nation's veterans. If you served our country in the military between 2003 and 2015 and you suffered significant hearing loss, you might be entitled to compensation, because the hearing protection you were issued may be at fault for the damage you suffered, but you need to act now. Your time to make a claim might be limited. Learn more at levinlaw.com/earplugs.